It's great to see everybody coming into stream set lines and high levels. You have to recognize all communications into coloration path. Your erection of time sequence locations, the conversion location of Earth is at 144, but the alteration line setting of the mind is not in position of track line. The communication system has to be in a certain line sequence in position of setting. Their 12 DNA line rotation is in surface. Now we put a pixel activation line stream. The medical ball line rotation interference is Metatron interference line position location of Metatronic cube. It's a cube line center line position locations. You open up the channel line position location of solar generation streams. Solar graph line calculation system. You guys are coming to your thetas in 4-line setting. Rush line conditions of box, line positional pixels, line strip locations, cross-reference line calculations, video graph line setting line interference, voice grid location system, in-track line conditions, solar generation line stream, circulation rotations, inline communication to an atom setting. That's how it's set up. Okay. Direction of time sequence location is liquid formation stream. Your axles and your communication earth perception line condition is going through a rotation spin cycle. That spin cycle line communication system is trying to understand you through your 12 DNA, where you are in your energy, vibration, frequencies, and harmonics. The channel upper streamline center line position location is the center operation of you. But as you go higher in calculations to number sequence locations of pattern, the observation locations, or anything through the activation line setting locations to the team, it doesn't matter. What matters is, do you understand what's happening with your conversions of your center calculations to your earth and your perception line setting? Understand when you get up in the morning, do you understand the circulation rotations? Do you understand the liquid formation location, your core? Do you understand your earth is in position to a conversion line setting, a rotation surface, and position locations? This allocates position location of timelines. We're coming out of the subterranean. We're coming out of the superconsciousness. We're coming in an altered state of the mind. Okay? The center line and inner line rotation interference has to be in a future adaptation surface. Okay, setting barometers inside locations diameter, line calculation of scales of balance, direction of time sequence, locations of pi. Now there's a pixel activation stream location, the ground line rotations. But now we're in center line calculations of the atmospheres. We're coming into sky grid settings. The integrated and power grid line center rotation interference is setting up new satellite channels, rotation location of Starlinks. Each calculation line interference location comes into measure. Measures and counts in line connectionized system. Now it's a 60,000 channel operation line location. The measure is extremely important. Okay, this measures its counts the scale line communication Earth. Your rotation of your Earth is in a center calculation system to a streamline setting. That's erection locations to your thoughts and how you use erection location to a system. This puts position location direct line settings to your pyramid of 4-line setting rotation surface in line calculations to an open signal. Setting calculation system travels line setting and center calculations, opens up sequence patterns and direction of time sequence locations. I don't have to do structures in my head. It's already done through equation. Let me say that again. It's already done through equation. So in that parameter line center line position locations, you have to recognize time sequence times pi. Your sequence patterns and your line center line conditions is a placebo cortex stream. That direction of time center has to understand the mystical cortex valve. We're going to go into wall channels. Now, wall channel line location comes into waves center line communications, wall line connections, wall interference, wall calculation line interference, holographic line structures, line calculation line interference, 2 panels, 2 line rotations in position of 3 set locations. In a triangulation of 3, 6 lines, 9 line setting, 12 in position location, circle line rotations, box line rotation, Fibonacci swirl, rotation surface, 12 line settings, security position locations, allocate line interference, UFO comes in, scans position, open line signal, travels out calculation. Recognition of time sequence. Now, I did that all through information. Now, in track lines and high center and position locations, put you guys into 37, right? So Fibonacci and line communications and levels. This opens up line communication, vision, and line rotation, deep cortex locations. Cod weaving, cod activation line interference. Now, set locations of code signals and direction locations. All right, this is communication operation of dimension, cod. All right, direction of code lines and rotation surface, prop circle locations, edit. Direction of time sequence. All right, so again, we go into spot channels and set locations. All right, so as we come into line communication, we're going to go through rotation spins. Setting diameter, line interference, earth perception, line setting, spot and set locations, as well as a channel. And set lines and calculation streams, direction of time sequence. Okay, open positions of panels, I send line conditions, direction of time sequence, levels of operation, set location settings. All right, so direction of time sequence comes into all set location setting. Going to line communication, direction of time sequence, location setting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Setting 12 line setting rotation. All right, so we come into consuming line setting. Now, consuming line setting, line position location, triangulation line setting, line position of top lines. Rest of time sequence, line position location, all setting. Setting correlation line interference and set location height travels. Rest of time sequence crosses signals in line position location all levels in 12 set location setting. Direction at time sequence locations comes into alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega, into radiation line interference and set locations. All right. Now, the directions on the timeline line interference, you see the pyramid set location. There's your pyramid in set location. All right. All right. So, how that setup line conditions of triangulations into lines of box, equal line condition of square root in set location setting, position of track line. See? So, more memory, set lines of center line, open box line into 3. Now, the 3 line center comes into 7. Now, 7 locations line interference, 7 line locations into 8. Now, we set an 8 line channel, 8 direction of time, 8 lines high setting, in position location infinity cycles. 8, 8, 8, 8. Setting calculation line interference and set location line system. Direction of time sequence, pi direction of time sequence line setting. Rotation surface locations, energetic graph lines, hieroglyphic location of channel lines, rotation surface. Line connecting, high center line position locations, all levels, 12 DNA track lines, into 0 operation set location position, done by equation. All right, now that setup location of pyramid setting. Now, earth perception line setting sets position of core. We take the line communication to earth and set locations, right? Now, the earth line rotation interference, 196, line setting, rotation surface, 196. Equal line conditions is all levels of Z line into box line, into line communications, into tablet set location setting. Direction line calculation line interference. This is where it comes into realms. Okay, we come into realms of communication, right? Now, this realms is calculation of 1 line, in position of 2 line, in position of 3 in set locations. High channel line interference. Now, the 3 lines is 6 and 9, 9 position of 12. 12 sets lines of 3, 3 sets lines of 6, and 6 line centers of 2, and 2 sets line positions of 8, and 8 position locations of 10, and 11 and 12 in set line connection system, 12 line setting, DNA line, track line, position location open signals, line position locations, putting lines of 3 and 6, line position of 6 over 7, 7 over 8, and 8 over 9 line setting, puts position of 12 back in center line calculation system, higher levels of channel line communication system to a pyramid activation line setting, in rotation surface. Hieroglyphic channels, operation strain lines, cross the signals and location system. Done by equation. All right, all through 196 line calculation. Now, 196 blocks its surface, the 1 line setting, 9 position location energy wash. Line calculation, 6 in line communication into a half pipe in position locations, into higher calculations, into a channel operation line in a 12 position locations. Down shifts its line calculation, rotation surface. Direction of time sequence. Now, this is a zip zap zoom. Location line interference, 1 UFO line rotations at the top signal. Setting calculations, scanning all calculations into pyramid setting and rotation surface. Direction of time sequence. Another ground line rotation surface and set location in the ground line rotation setting. Done by equation. All right. So the perimeters and parameters in line calculations comes into 3. And again, measure. 7 line and 7. So 3 line position becomes 3, equals of 7. That's 37 bracket line communication. So that's 3 0 line rotation, 0 operation bracket communication setting, rotation surface. 7 line channels. So that's 3 in position of 4. 4 line setting, right? 4 line setting locations comes into 7. 7 again comes into 5. 5 equals 12. Line position of DNA. DNA track line calculation system, energetic graph line rotation surface. Setting calculations, all levels, energetic graph lines, video graph screen, set locations. Now, in set location, here's your Earth, and rotation surface, direction of time sequence comes in set location. Direction of high line calculation, there's the moon, set location, there's your sun, set line connections. High travel calculation, moon lines operation surface, rotation surface locations into the sun position location high setting. Direction of time sequence location of pi, direction of time center. Rotation line interference opens up another channel operation line position location high setting. Direction of time sequence comes into a back course line calculation system, puts you in a 3-set line calculation line interference of phenomenal line position of rotation. Done by equation. Setting calculation line interference. Track location settings. Now, the direction of time sequence is all about understanding how to use modification circles. Now, modification circle is line calculation of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Spot channel line operation signals. Direction of time sequence, triangulation and triangulation, triangulation and triangulation and triangulation. All levels. Now, the rotation line interference. So 1 satellite position, 2 lines, 3, position of 4, 5, 6, and 7 in center. Now, that's set up, line position location, Earth line rotation interference. Here's your Earth line rotation. There's the Earth right there, right? Center calculation line interference. Setting position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Graph lines at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Set location settings. Direction of time sequence. Now, the allocate line interference. We set a triangulation line in position. That's 3 over measure in set locations into line calculation. Then a line setting of 7, 37 line position of phenomenon. Done by equation. All right. Direction of time sequence. Okay, like I said, it's going to get more complicated. Complicated is good because you have to understand the pyramid line center rotation comes into all set location settings, direction of time. Now, center calculation graph lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 set positions. All right. Now we get laser line position locations and settings, 3 set locations. All right. Direction of time sequence, 0 operation, 0 grounds, and 0 atmosphere position. High calculations is the set line communication, direction of time sequence. 0 line communication is 0 operation surface. Now, in set location high interference, we take the line calculation system 196, line calculation 196, and calculation 196, calculation system 196, and calculation system. We put line calculation at 24, line setting, 24, line setting, 24, line setting, 24, line setting. 2 panels, position locations, and a 4-line calculation measure in set location setting, done by equation. All right, setting communications all levels, channel operation line interference, all levels of code signal. Direction of time sequence, position of pi, set location setting. All right, so setting your pyramids in set location. Now we come into solar spin line, Fibonacci line rotations into a box position locations to your Earth set location. All right, now setting the Fibonacci line set location is a box line in center position. TV reception line into 3 in set locations. Center lines at 3, 7. Blocks of surface locations. 3 zeros line interference, 3 zeros line interference, 3 zeros line interference, and 3 0 line communications. So in line communications, we got 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines. So set a line position location of 6 and line position of 6. So that's 2 lines of half pipe positions in opposite direct location setting. First line calculation line interference. 3 lines, 7 in set locations. Setting barometers, barometer line interference into spectrum light communications, into binary and line interference, into records and set location setting position of track line calculation, done by equation. All right. So code frequency patterns, reduction of time sequence locations into waving cycles line setting. So the Earth line rotation to setting communication. All right. So levels of set line calculation system. Northwest, south, and east of 24, 24, 24, 24 is set location 196, 96, 186, 186. Line position location of 4 line center line position location, high center line position, 3 set location settings. Direction of time sequence. Here's the sun position locations, crossing signals in set location. There's the sun. And position location, here's your moon. In set line connection high system. Moon sets line position triangulation, a 3-spot line connection system, 3 into 7 line calculations. Bracket interference, 7 line condition, equal line condition high system. Indirect locations, 5 line channels, operation streamline in set locations. High channel line position location operation signals, 3 lines of 5, 5 lines of 6, 6 lines of 8, 8 position of 9, 9 position of 10, 11, and 12. Divine line interference and set locations, done by equation. Okay, so speed lines, high center line interference, acceleration line position, operation surface, block line setting, and rotation surface in the opposite location setting and rotation surface line connections. channel lines and operations sequence in Fibonacci line position of travel. High calculation line interference and downshift cross line signals, recognition of timelines, star lengths and line rotations, star line position of track lines, directional lines of 0 operation surface and set location of travels into 2 line setting and rotation interference, 3 magnetic wires and ground lines operation surface and set location of ground lines and surface line position of track line communication. Done by equation. Setting geometry line interference into Earth perception line setting, solar stream, direction of time sequence. So that's 1 line of arrow, 2 lines of sequence, and 3 lines of position and location. All right. Setting calculation line interference. Here's your Earth rotation surface. Now direction location is center is circling and circling and circling. All right. Setting calculation line interference. Fibonacci sequence location of flux capacitor. Direction of time sequence of fly line calculation line interference. Direction of time sequence. That's on line 12, position location 24, position location 48, position location of in line 72, and 144 is set location to 1 bracket line sign line calculation system. 1 line barometer, 4 line channels, and solar streamline communication system. All ovals, a solar generation line stream and set location, high center location, Earth perception location, 196 line communication operation surface. Setting calculation of location operation line setting. Direction of time sequence looking from the pi. All right, so setting code line interference, another rotation surface, location ether. Rotation line, position, location, travel, communication line centers. You got water communications, you got fire calculation system, you got ground line communication, you got operation signal line communication, ground operation surface, direction of time communication line system. Now, all levels of water, communication of fire, ground lines, and line communication lines of air, direction of time sequence, timeline center, timeline interference, electric lights, electric line interference line, conditional electrical ground line rotation surface. First on the box line, center line, position location of 37 line, position location of 7, position location of 4, 4 line, position of solar generation line, interference location of operation signal. I have to travel communication fast line, communication line, interference location of balance, communication line, interference like 12, 24, 48, 72, 41. 1 position of 4, 1 line position of 6, line position of 7, line position of 8, line 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 communication line, interference, setting communication line, interference with condition. Heights and line, setting communication line, interference and track line communication setting. Rest of time sequence times pi, allocate line interference. Rest of time sequence, line communication line center, 196, line position location 4, line channel, line communications, 111 line connection, 112, 113, 114. Rest of time sequence, all 4 seasons, records time sequence locations, 12 lines, 24, 48, line interference, line positional window, 1 communication line center, 144, line position track line communication, 0 operation line communication setting. Rest of time sequence location pattern, done. All right. All right. So there's a lot happening to set location settings all through 7 lines, 4 generation stream lines, the solar generation stream locations to your Earth perception lines, conversion. The rotation spin cycle to the alter state of the mind setting has to be in a certain line of communication through set location settings. All right, Tina calculations of Heather line position locations, all levels of Gypsy position locations, all levels. Geneva communication setting, Chris line calculation system, direction of time sequence, all levels, alter, welcome calculation line interference, and set location setting, direction of time sequence, high calculation line, let's see, alter, I'm gonna put energy field line rotations, you're very new. Okay, you got a 0 line and 0 line and 3. So setting position location, energy field, position location, all position of programs. Setting communication, protection line, communication line, interference, of school line, communication, space on creator line, communication system. Balance communicating, kind line, interference location of 007. There's some time sequence locations, putting outside line communication, observation, location of setting. There's some time sequence. Okay, alter, because you're very new, is a location in your team line setting. An alteration line communication system, Johnny, Hemdall calculation line streams, application in all levels, Andy calculation line interference, all position of captain, cap position of Trinity position location, high setting, direction of time sequence. All right, so setting calculation line interference, Earth rotation settings, liquid formation line stream location, solar generation line interference, 74 line channels offer stream locations, true Earth perception line calculation stream. Done by equation, all right? All right, so the 0 line rotation is surfacing to allocate line setting. Okay, Earth rotation, set locations. All right. Okay, so in position location, that's your Earth. Now you're saying that in calculation system, yes, that's your Earth line connections, but this is the other how to calculate. This calculates its set locations. Rest of the barometer line rotations at 3 set location settings. High calculation opens up a higher levels of channel operation line setting. Rotation interference, splitting line position locations, higher center calculation setting. Now, the direction of time sequence comes into operation surface instead of location dimensional setting. Rotation line position locations comes into a line calculation. This is position locations into north and east line connections. Now, the south wind and set line conditions to grounds, ozone line rotation surface and set locations. Direction of time sequence. Now, the communication of the moon and position location of the sun is set location setting. Direction of time sequence done through position, right? Aerodynamics, all levels, rotation, spin cycles, hieroglyphic line calculation setting. So we have pyramid line rotation interference supports that channel communication. All right, so line calculation, Fibonacci line, position of flux capacitor. Zero line rotation surface, direction of time sequence locations, all right? So you have to really understand how a pyramid is actually made instead of location of ground lines and rotation surface. Ground communication at 3-set location wire settings. Now, line communications comes into a Merkaba position of channel. The operation streamline comes into a tesseract calculation setting to a tetrahedron location setting interference and set location setting rotation. Now, in that position of all constellation, the direction of time sequence comes into this position location of traction. All right. Now, the direction line calculations are going to take the tetrahedron in the center position, open signals and set location new tesseract channel. Operation do binary set location setting in position. High center calculation, 3-line calculation. Initiate line of the team, set line communication, electrical lines, new binary line interference, center position location track. Done by equation. All right, it's all set up. All right, setting communication of pyramid lines, setting position of track lines. Now, in sequence pattern, the set lines of communication line interference is direction of time sequence. Okay. So crossing signals, line conditions, this is energy signature patterns. Direction of timelines, this is only for me. Direction of timeline interference is a graph line stream. This is an earth line rotations to its all set locations. Energy signature pattern line to the earth line rotation surface is now in set location of vibration into 144 of higher levels of conversion locations. Direction of timelines in set location setting. That's the signature location that's set position, right? All right, so setting calculation line interference, we come into alpha line, we come into delta line and set location, direction of time sequence. You have to understand the panels and rotation surface and 3-set line conditions. All right, 3-set lines, you see it? Now, again, in line interference, line position location, so come to line position location to your pyramid set and 4-line connection. See the pyramid? Now, the pyramid line rotation comes into a diamond core. This shift is 0-line rotations. Sets up position location to a new binary setting in rotation to a flux capacitor set locations. Energized line calculations of pi. Done by equation. All right, so rectors of time sequence. Again, in position of traction. You have to understand the signature pattern. It rotates its surface. So it's really powerful when you set location settings with directions. Setting calculations to all setting, direction of time sequence. All right. All right, so in that position of traction, you have to understand how this all works. So we're going to go through block line position of channels. Okay. We're going to set line communication in line settings. Let's see, locations here. 6. And let's see. So we got line communication. Let's see, in direction. 1, 2, 3 panels. Now, those 3 panels, line setting. Okay, so we're going into block line interference and track locations, synergization streamlines. Rest of time sequence. So time sequence line calculations is 3. We set locations, right? 3 equal line conditions of 7 and 7 line conditions. Now, this is only for the Earth perception line. It's illumination graph line, direction of time sequence. So that's 3 line calculation system. So like you connect to a password set line communication setting. All levels of high set location to 3 set location to high setting interference and track location system and direct signals. Okay, it's done by equation. All right. All right, so setting all calculation line and position, we also go through line communication 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 communication line setting rotation service. That's position location track line. So we go through line communications into a wall line interference into 1, 2, 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and cross lines of 7 locations. Now, it's really understanding what's going on right now with the energetic graph line. See the 5-line setting? 5 recognition of levels puts it in 8 infinity system. Here's the 5. Now, the 5-line rotation interference, the cloud line channels the change the geometric operation surface. So we're going to set a correlation setting and direct location setting interference. Earth perception location, okay, into the moon set, into sun position. 3-track line conditions. Sun opens up signal, moon comes crossing lines in position of 6 in set locations. Now, the channel line position locations higher setting, direction of time sequence. Your Earth is set location setting interference, and direct location signals. Setting calculated on interference line conditions is levels of 0 line in position of 0 track into 0 operation surface in set locations. Now, the direction of time sequence has to really understand the positions of panels and rotation. Calculation lines of a tube line rotation surface, locations at 12, line conditions slides down its cross signals. Setting calculation of 0 line rotation to higher levels of ground in a tube center of set location setting. Direction of time sequence location of pi, done by equation. All right, so Earth line rotation, geometric pattern is now in a set line communication. So we go through again, block location settings, but we go through all set lines. Now we just did the right, now we're going to do the left, because the center communication system has to be balanced to graph line streams. Geometric operation location, your 12 DNA, has to be in a center calculation setting. Now the solar generation lines, the liquid formation location, your axles and position location is now unmeasured. Center calculation of scale since 5-track location setting, indirect locations of pi, allocate line interference line position of track lines. So it's like putting the pieces and puzzle to your Earth perception locations to your hemisinks, line communications to your hemisphere, because you got right and left. So we did right, now we're doing left. Left communication line position location of track line. One position, 2 position, 3, 4 positions, 5, 6, and 7 location setting. Recognition of 8 in set location setting and 1 point set location. Now, the condensation line interference, this sets position location of programs, recognition of 0 lines into operation surface and set location of travel line communication. Now, the direct signal comes into a UFO. We bring it in set location, scanning settings into operation surface, center position location directions. This opens up a new ground line operation surface in set location. The direction of timeline sets another line communication to a black hole, direction of time sequence. Now that opens all position location to the laser directions in 3 set line calculation streams. Direction of high setting line interference sets position location into triangulation set, into 3 and 7 location set lines. Direction line calculation into 7, 4, and set location position of track line position, done by equation. So the left and the right and the left is done position. Okay. All right, meteorological line calculation setting. Now in line interference, we're going to go into graph line stream and set locations, right? Smaller indication. 0 line into 0 line into 0 line in 3 set locations, right? 3, 3, 3. So 0, 3, 0, 3, 0, 3. Heart, mind, and soul. Setting calculations, right? Now, the direction line calculation system is flux capacitor, equal line conditions of flux and position locations, 3 lines operation surface, 6 line communication system, moon line, sun position location. Direction of time sequence. Now it gets more complicated because now we're going to higher calculation stream. Direction of timelines, high center position location, higher measures. It's complicated stuff when you try to understand what's going on through Fibonacci sequence locations of panel. Direction of time sequence location of setting, high set calculation. Console calculation line interference, line position locations, higher center into travel communication. Direction of time sequence locations. Now the sun line has to understand the operation surface, the operation line positions to its ground lines in 3 set location. Setting channels operation streamline, done by equation. All right, setting signals to here location of pyramid activation line setting. The rotation surface locations comes into 1 line in position of 2. Right? Center position locations, bottom line rotations, center calculation of 0 line rotation surface. Flux capacitor is center position location. Your Earth is now set in locations of higher set connections. All right. So pyramid activation, the flux capacitor line position location of 3 into 7 set lines position locations. Diamond core line setting in position of north, in position of east, in position of west, in position of south location. Now 37 line setting, 3, 7, center is calculation. Operation surface travels line position location out of sequence. The sequence line calculation system comes into alpha line setting, alpha, delta, theta, beta, mega, and radiation line interference and location setting, done by equation. Setting energetic graph lines of GOD. Now, the direction of time setting is to really understand all calculation to its surface. Now, calculation line interference is all zero. We always start with a zero. Remember that. Pyramid line rotation interference, track location setting into all set locations. Tube line rotation in position location higher setting, rotation surface. Direction of timelines in position location and zero operation of Fibonacci sequence in two set location of travel and set location setting. High calculations, downshift, operation, surface, location, system, done by equation. All right, setting communications to all levels. So what I'm doing is I'm reconstructing the Earth perception lines, the graph lines of streams. Rotation, surface, locations, all levels. Okay, crossing signals, waving line, rotation, interference, and block locations. Now, the shapes and elements of the Earth's perception has to learn to understand the inventory of communications to geometric setting. The operation surface location has to understand the letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Now, it's in pixel streamlines, but it's also connected to pi interference. So we're going to change position, location, and track lines in the block line setting, the rotation surface in location system. Changing line interference into holographic lines are your Earth perception line conditions. Turning new Earth rotation surface to a Stargate set line, the calculations. The Earth has to come into a Stargate line setting and rotation surface and set locations to a new cloud channel of operation stream location. Done by equation. All right, it's all set up. This is new Earth perception now. All right, so that's set up position, location, inventory line setting. We set up the communications of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. It's all position of track lines, direction of time sequence locations, one line rotations, two line position, three lines in position line conditions. That's three line conditions of seven. Three lines, three and seven locations, circle line communication. Phenomenal line rotation. So it understands directions, but we're going to cross the signals and opposite system location of three centers. Three set calculation of zero operation of Fibonacci sequence in line communications. Two, its flux capacitor, line position of its box. Seven in the center, same position of four in set location settings. Done by equation, right? So solar streams, solar generation lines, solar generation line calculations of its engine is now set up to an energetic core into a resistor, changing line communication and perceptions. Now, the perception line communication setting has to recognize the time sequence, and that's where it comes into measure. Measure count line center line interference is set location height system, percentage locations, zero line in position locations, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in 7 locations in set line setting. Direction of time sequence. Now it gets complicated across the signal location, laser location, UFO line rotation. Calculations into DNA track line calculation, interference. All swivel communication system, all line center line calculations, done by equation. All right, so zero operation signals in DNA track line is in communication of its position track lines. The inline rotation interference is set position locations into one line setting, into two track locations, and three measures in set locations. Now, this is the sun in position location. This is the moon. Rotation surface. Kaleidoscope coming into position. Direction of time sequence. Now, in calculations, immediate calculation line interference. Now, we're going to set line communication system to Saturn. So there's Saturn position right there. Center calculation of team line setting. Direction of timelines. Center position. All right, you're in Saturn now. New flash drives, allocate line interference. Now we come into the moon, input, sun position, output set locations, done by equation, right? 10, 15 minutes on barometer line setting, line interference, console calculation streamline. Set them in perimeter, position locations, all levels of high setting, direction of time sequence. All right, so scales and set line calculation of Saturn, direction of time sequence, center position, right? Now, the solar graph line center line rotation sets position locations, energetic setting, direction of time sequence, location, high center interference of travels. Calculation line interference, criss and cross line calculation streamlines, direction of time sequence in positional box setting, calculation line interference. So each planetary surface has to recognize your timelines, has to really understand communication, because your position, your heart direction of time sequence is coming into a lotus flower. Full circle line calculation line setting, guys, is coming in a heart direction of time sequence. Okay, more memory on accountability, direction of time sequence locations. So it's very powerful when you come into line communications Saturn. Now, the team line is now in set line communications. We're understanding communication line interference in set locations. So we got to bring in Jupiter in set location setting. There's Jupiter. Calculations, we got to bring in Mercury in set location setting. The calculation set interference. we have to bring all calculations to Neptune instead of location line interference. And all calculation system, we have to bring all set lines of solar line calculations, solar streams, in set lines of 74, 74 equal lines of 37, 37 here, 37 here, and 37 into center communication, done by equation. All right, that's how it's set up. Rest of time sequence, triangulation, in 3 set locations, triangulation, and triangulation setting. Timestamp, see the timestamp line setting? Okay, now this also says communication is center operation of Fibonacci swirl, direction of time sequence, done by equation. All right, so that's set up locations into 3-7 in position of 7-4. Right? Okay, so channel line stream. I know there's a lot to go on through location setting. My hair is on. Well, that's what you get when you get into all calculation Earth perception line settings. Okay, so energetic graph line center, 0 line rotation, position location line conditions of box, line conditions of 2, line interference into square root set location. Right? Travel communication line set, box line, 6 line communication. Always have to have a half byte. Center calculations and surface into another direct line signal instead of location opposite system. Rest of time sequence, line of travel position. Now that travel lines opens up another sequence of locations and another open line rotation, another open line rotation in position of track line communication. Now the track line communication sets line division. Now that line communications, so box line and TV line in position of form line, in position of communication line, opens all sig locations into 196 line setting, location position of track line setting, interference, done by equation. Now we open the signal, center position of center, travel communication cross lines into set location of travels, and 3 set line connection system into new all line communication to high setting position of center calculations to its GOD, direction of time sequence. Now center communications, I'll show you exactly what it is, position of track line, or circle locations. This is what it is. Set conditions. Okay. All right. So a center communication system comes into all levels of 0 line, operation surface, triangulation line interference of 12 DNA set line communication. Now this comes into all calculations. Now we merge the correlations into block lines into 3 set location settings in direction of time sequence. Now that position location grounds its system location of travel, set location. This opens up another panel communication system, ground lines, and set line communication of 0, 0, 0, 3 line setting, 0, 0, 0, 3 line setting, and 0, 0, 0, and 3 line setting. Heart, mind, and soul set up the position. We change the 3 lines in here, 3 lines in here, and 3 lines in here, and 3 lines in here. Heart, mind, soul, direct location, center communication into earth line communication, false signals. Down by equation. It's all set up. So DNA track and earth perception line setting is now in stream. Okay, so to set these things up is off the coordinate location of channel. The operation here at the locations sets position of track lines. Track line is extremely important locations. All right, so in that direct line signals, we come into 0 line communication, line conditions of 1, 1 equals lines of 7, sound location of 5, 5 line centers of 12 instead of location setting. Now the 12 line rotates its surface instead of locations. This is how it becomes a UFO line rotation instead of locations of number sequence. All right. Center communication, equal line conditions of north and position of south. Merkabah position of center. Now this downshifts this cross line. This center position. Okay. Centers its position locations and set line and communication. Center position location operation. Right. 3 set line calculations. Open signals and set location solar graph lines. Direction line calculation system and position of track line communication. High center calculations. 0 operation, ground operation, rotation surface, atmosphere set lines, in position location of travel calculation lines of a new operation setting and rotation surface, down by equation. So all the sequence patterns and calculation line centers are all set up. Okay. So it's amazing how you set up 37 lines of phenomena and location of 74. Theta line position locations and all settings. So it was a lot more tricky because I had to use the phenomenon of 3 and 7 and theta line communication, your moon line interference to your sun, get you guys in the observation line interference location and projector. Your project location line in position location to its measure scales the system location. It's all about balancing your left and your right hemisphere in set location of your pyramid line rotation to its perception line condition setting of DNA track interference. Okay. All right, let's see here. Can the Starlink satellite scanner and amplifying signals, gamma lights? Let's see, corrected signals flowing into the theta box and projecting out to the pyramid structures. We understand the full connections. Yeah, it's pretty hard for you to keep up there, Altair. You just have to really stand information locations. My school is all about remembering who we are. I mean, the team is at a set communication at higher levels of vibration line setting, especially when they come into this location of structure. Okay, it's very complicated. So, but like I said, complicated is a fantastic way to see other lines of communication, especially when we come into future adaptation of our settings. All reaction location, high center interference. Incoming frequency, setting base, 520 megahertz, vibration technology, and doody code. Yeah, breathe, people, breathe. Always set in their child, yeah. Go, General, go, go. Go, go. So, setting calculation lines of 0 again, set position. This opens all signal locations across the settings. There's some time sequence. You have to really understand how space works inside location of graph line communication. Right? Setting communication line interference and track communication. Right? It's very powerful when you set location settings. High calculations into 0 operation of center. Calculation line interference, graph lines, a 12 line rotation interference, a holographic line position. So you have to really understand how to set up the 0 line and all calculations. So it's like a zip liner. Setting communications in 0 operation surface in set location of 3 settings. Direction of time sequence into triangulation set location. All right. Now, you have to understand how everything works when you really get in position location of travel. Now, the line sets conceptual location of the sun and position location of the moon, right? So the sun is waiting on signal in activation setting, right? Waiting to get into the moon of operation, right? To its kaleidoscope of its projector. That's all this is. Once the projector opens up, it comes into a flywheel direction of time sequence. High calculation, the sun opens up a higher level of set location setting in direct signal. Okay, it starts recognizing the projector to its film projecting line calculation system of its film, setting communication line interference into 1 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. 8, 9, and 10 line setting and location of 11 and position of 12. So it's taking sequence location at all levels. So you take the 0 line rotation, top line signal, sets position of ground lines, rotations of 1 and position of 2. So that's how it's set at location. Now the direction of time sequence comes into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 set locations, direction of time sequence. Center calculations opens another panel to higher levels of travel position locations in its cortex and set position of travel position. Now that line communication sets up another line communication into higher levels of travel position. Now the direction of the sun line opens up all position locations into 3 set line settings in all calculation. Higher levels of travel position of recognition done by equation. All right? So this is what we're all coming into. Okay? Just coming into your projections of your projectors, of your moon and your sun, an operation for the mind. The alter state location has to understand the solar generation line settings. Now, as a tomorrow line communications, you come into 75 position. Timeline sequence location, your placebos, cortex line calculation system, higher levels, say alter state line communication of the mind, adaptation to genetic patterns, direction of time sequence, senior cloud line communication system, and understanding through that direction of time sequence. Very powerfully communication line interference and track location settings. All through the sun and all through the moon. Okay? So, it's a lot to take in, guys. It's very powerful if you don't understand what the connection is. It's just trying to get it into remembrance of your settings to understand the alter state location of your mind. to the conscious, to the superobvious consciousness, to the line calculation system, to the altered state of the mind setting in rotation surface. So all position, location, high center is set up position your moon and your emotional track lines and your Schumann resonant position locations, and everything your sun is coming in operation location of light. Okay, so you need both to set up projector. It's a location. Remote scanning. And set locations, right? So this gets you in operation to hardwire communication to its mainframe. This puts you into your hardware set locations and set line conditions. And after that signal comes in, we come into all calculation line interference to your mind frame position locations. Alter state communication to your imagination phenomenon. Puts you into your software calculation setting. All right. All right. So take the team line interference and set location high setting. Take them out of position locations. Back into their perception location of vibration. You guys are back. Signal line communications. It's amazing how we come into 45 channel lines into 55 positions. It's pretty powerful stuff, set locations. All right. That's how your sun and that's how your moon is going to be set up through 12 DNA set line conditions. All right. Zero operation surface. Now, you have to really understand how this comes into placement channel. The operation surface location changes sector to vector and vector to quad. Okay. Knowing exactly where my positions of my moon is, knowing the location where my connections of my sun is in set locations. So it's always in position location of flux capacitor in set location. Okay. That's how it works in set location of the space line calculation stream. All right. So they're patterns, I see them of the time. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing when you come into set locations of settings, guys, but I really want you to really pay attention to what's going on with your set location and your sun. Okay. No, you're not dreaming. You're coming into visionary settings. Meditation is a way of seeing yourself in so many different ways or forms. Meditation is a way of living. Meditation is a way of breathing. Meditation is a way of seeing yourself in all calculation, right? Meditation is great, but meditation is you living. It's existence, all levels of all at once, in all timelines, in one setting. Okay? That's meditation. There's no particular way to meditate. Meditation is all forms of calculations to a pi. Direction of time set locations of the 24 signal, which is your 24 line setting, which is a day setting, right? So you get into your breathing, right? I really want to get into that too with the school, because I think it's better to understand how to really get into rhythm patterns, how to fluctuate up and down in set locations, right? How you go up and how you go down, how you go up and how you go in the middle, and how you go up and then you go in the middle and you go down. So it's like in communication, getting into breathing. It's like you start off. But don't stop there. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep fluctuating, keep fluctuating, keep fluctuating. This is going to give you a lot more breathing pattern, give you more space and expansion. You can just open up your range, right? Your range, space, very powerful. Okay? See? So powerful. It's amazing. It's laser, right? Sacred self-location of unconditional line conditions, all levels of mindset line conditions. Use your voicing lines as a frame, how you communicate with each other and yourself inside location, right? Now, this is a totally different adaptation line interference. I really want everybody to get into that and get into your channels of operation, get into your tones, get into your rhythm patterns, get into your face recognition, get in your pattern recognition systems, right? You know, that's what you have to do, right? The planetary surface has to really recognize everything that's coming through your ears on right lines, which is Earth, and Left lines, which is space, right? Sonar communication line interference, direction of time, signal locations, longitude and latitude, position northwest, south, and east. 1,000 line calculation system, 20 lines of light years away communication. That's what it sounds like. I just gave you the pattern communication of the equation location to all levels of surface line calculation of Saturn. There's location, longitude, latitude, all calculation, geometric pattern communication line setting. Position of 5 lines in position of 4, 3, 2, 1. Set communication, travel calculation, back to 5. So we all have to learn how to use not just what we say through the position, location, all your senses. Okay, it's all levels of you coming into your inhibitors and your impulses and your connections to how you see yourself, right? Get into motivation, get into your inner child. You should be in your child every day line setting. That's the only way you can understand anything from mind adaptation. And the highest thing is the highest formation of a child. This is you in equation locations. So you're constantly drawing structures of you in the mind, trying to understand the geometric operation of design. It's all calculated to modify how you see yourself in set locations, right? Getting in that direct signal, right? Get into your imagination, right? Right? Really get into being fun with it. Try to see what you're doing through visual. Try to get into that structure by just using your voice. You guys are reaching higher levels, okay, to higher levels of alteration now, okay, because you got solar generation lines of 7 and 4 and set location of 3 and 7. Phenomena communication to 7-4 position. Your theta calculations to your solar generation line centers now set lower perceptual location or geometry shape. To higher calculations of hologram line connections. Okay, so really get into that. Ooh, get a long range. Right? Really get into the sound effects. It's really amazing when you start understanding more levels of you inside because you're creating this space that's in time, right? Through its pi. Okay? So there's a lot of things you have to understand through balance. Balancing your voice is extremely important, but balancing everything that you do is extremely important. From masculinity to femininity to the divinity position locations, right? That's a true understanding when you come into all of your voice settings. Really start recognizing these things. Really get into that phenomenal locations of your imagination setting. Get into the story frame, right? Electrical light communication and fusion. Right? Vibrational line connections, 2 people traveling with each other. Get into your imagination line connections. Communication, 1 line interference, 1 planet surface. It's open up sequence, right? Here comes the line communication, high interference, the location of your setting, location avatar setting. Right? Magnetic line interference line travel communication system. Balance calculation is understand how to use your finger line calculations of triangulation, geometric locations, operation surface, setting calculation system, waiting on signal, Merkabah channels, operation surface. Give it at least a 1 minute location. See the graph lines, illumination graph, interference location, plasma channel, operation stream. And position location 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You let go, right? It travels inside the location, right? So in that position line conditionized system, you have to learn how to use the geometric line operation location of finger points. 3 set line calculation settings, right? 3. You don't include the moon because the moon is the opposite setting, right? So it's a 3 line communication into the moon setting, right? Moon line rotations into 1 setting, okay? 2 setting, 3 setting, 4 setting, 5 setting. 1 operation to the moon setting location of 5. Now, we have to understand how to integrate its position location of travel. Setting calculation, 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 setting calculation. It's all levels of design. So if you can do it through structure, you can do it through hand formation settings. Really understand how to communicate to set location, right? Because it's letters, numbers, and shapes, right? So you get the letter line communication to one line setting. Right? 2-line setting interference. 2-track line beans. Coming together location. Center bob location. Waiting on signal. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Knowing exactly what you're doing is knowing exactly what the mind is doing through alteration. Setting correlation line interference in your set line communication balances everything that you do through right and left and left and right. Left and right, right and left. Both communication, center calculation, line setting. It's all direction of timeline. It's all direction of interference. So every time I'm communicating line communication to my hand. So the communication line interference is setting position location of balance. The rotation surface and location system is in track location setting. Direction of time sequence, line communication, highest in line interference is a triangulation system. In triangle line communication and program location. Center calculation line interference, setting calculation line in position, allocate line interference, and trial communication. See? Balance. Get the balance in the mind. Operation surface to set location setting. All right. Okay, so very powerful class. And set location is going to get more complicated, but it's going to get a lot more fun. The alteration in your mind is now set location to whole setting. 3 and 7 line communication of 7 and 4 in solid generation line strength and set locations. All right. See you guys on Zoom. Adios.